Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the next Gypsy Roma Traveller Friendly Churches webinar. And today it's going to be another focus on education. We did an education webinar a few months back. I think we did learn some things, but we really want to maybe explore a little bit more what we meaning with education and some of the some of the difficulties faced, but also some of the advantages from that different communities have within their education. So we're going to start. We've got Paul Strack will be speaking. We've also got Rosa Cisneros, who is a Roma. We have a few young people speaking, and then a little bit later we'll have Candice Thomas from who's a showman. She will also be coming in. So can we start then? We'll get on with inviting Paula to share with us. Paula Strachan is a head teacher of a school with a large number of Irish traveller young people attending. So over to you, Paula.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, by the grace of God. Someone can give me a thumb up if you can see that. Yeah. Anybody give me a thumb up? Ivy, I can see you. Can you see my PowerPoint?
No. Yes, there we
now
go.
I can.
It's on.
Now I can.
Yeah, it just took a while. Okie dokie. Right. Hi everybody. As Paul said, I'm Paula Strachan. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I've had the joy of being St. Teresa's head teacher for over 8 years now, and I've just come to share with you this morning a little bit about how we make sure that everyone feels included here. And for us, that means that they're a part of our school family, because we are one big, most of the time, very happy family. So at St. Teresa's, our mission statement is we focus on doing the little things well. St. Teresa's is a very culturally diverse school in the northeast town of Darlington. Over 54% of our children are from minority ethnic backgrounds. There are 13 different languages spoken in our school, and 26% of our children identify as Gypsy, Roma or traveller children. The majority of them are Gypsy children. And as a school, we've got a growing reputation for supporting children, particularly from our GRT communities. I've been asked to present evidence to the Education Select Committee in Parliament. We were the first primary school in the country to sign up to the GTRSB pledge. We contributed heavily to a Catholic Education Service document called Supporting Gypsy Roma Traveller Pupils in Catholic Schools. And I just wanted to share some time with you this morning, sharing our inclusive practice. So as a school, one of the things we've done is we've made several commitments to our GRT families, and I'm going to talk you through them now. The quotes that you can see are direct from school staff. So the first thing we said that we'd do, our commitment, was to challenge assumptions. And I think it's crucial for schools to check their own assumptions about Gypsy, Roma and traveller communities. It's useful to offer staff training on the unconscious bias that people can have, as this doesn't only apply to the Gypsy Roma traveller community, but other community groups. And I think it's crucial because it can change the way that people behave. The way that school leaders behave, as we know, feeds down through the whole school, right to the pupils. And it's really important to create that culture of listening and not prejudging. I take time to visit our local camp, and I spend a few hours with the gentleman in the picture. This is Billy Welsh. He's the Shira Ron. He's the head Gypsy. And he's actively trying to challenge some of the negative stereotypes around Gypsies in particular. And he's really open to talking about GRT culture. I have coffee times with Billy on the camp, and I've learned quite a lot about the GRT community. By no means am I an expert, but we do have very positive relationships with our community because of our openness to try and understand some of their nomadic ways. In my view, I cannot serve the children that are lucky enough to be at St. Teresa's properly if I don't understand a little bit about their heritage. Okay. So a big commitment that we've made is a commitment to engaging with this community, because we play an integral role in supporting GRT pupils and their families. It's their first-hand experience that makes them key figures in tackling some of the issues that they may raise. We're often able to identify where issues arise, and we're more likely to recognise the complexities and the sensitivities that are at play because we know our children really, really well. We know their parents. We actually now know their grandparents and great-grandparents, but we know their families really well. By showing an openness to that local GRT culture, it can be easier to understand why some parents may feel excluded from or unable to engage with school life. And engaging with the GRT parents in their community and gaining their trust has been crucial to us in reducing absences and making everybody feel welcome. The GRT culture brings a richness to our school's identity, and people are more likely to stay where they feel welcome. For example, this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're hosting a big event at St. Teresa's where we've got the Living Wagon from Salford coming up, and we've invited lots of different local schools who don't have Gypsy children in them to spread that awareness of their culture. I've got Richard O'Neill coming up to spend 3 days telling us stories and share his traditional stories around the campfire. And for us, it's just a way of really engaging with the community. Okay. We've got lots of different stories in school that have gypsies as the main character. We make sure that our curriculum supports our gypsy children. Okay, and we've made a big commitment to educating others, because what all members of the GRT community have in common is their status as an ethnic group. And often GRT children can track their history back. It puts me into shame, actually. They know so much about their family histories, and I could do well to remember my great-grandparents' name. But sadly, for some communities, these histories, they can trace right back to extreme persecution. And we find ourselves supporting that community, dealing with racism quite a lot. Quite a lot of professional racism is faced by these children. It's still very socially acceptable to be derogatory about someone simply because they're a gypsy. So we found that what we need to do is we need to try and communicate others around this group. I often find myself saying to professionals, would you talk about another racial group that way? And they often stop themselves and say no, because it's so widely acceptable in the media and sadly in normal life that we can be so racist about these communities. But for me, these are our children. They're children of God, and they deserve to be treated the same as everybody else. So education of others is the one way we think we can tackle some of the stereotypes. We made a big commitment to challenging electively home educated children, because you'll know that according to the 2011 census, it highlighted that gypsies and travellers are 3 times more likely to have no qualifications and are significantly more likely to be economically inactive compared to the average population of England and Wales. Okay, there's loads of data out there about how many Gypsy, Roma and traveller people have further education qualifications. And with statistics like that, it's no wonder that these children aren't welcomed into communities. A lot of my children travel because that's their nomadic nature. And I have schools ringing me saying, sometimes schools ring me and get very cross because they presume that unconscious bias and that prejudice that these children are not going to be intelligent. So why would they arrive at them before national attainment, before SATs? And I have to say, actually, these children are really, really bright. They've been in school, they do travel, but they're going to school when they travel. I've had other parents come back and say to me, Paula, we tried really, really hard to get them into a school, but what we're finding is it's taking people a month to decide if they're going to accept our travelling children. By that point, the work's dried up and families have moved on. So these children are being kept out of education because of the prejudice that they face because they are Gypsy children. And that, for an educational professional, is a really hard pill to swallow. So what we do is we link in with other schools. We've signed the GTRSB pledge that I keep talking about, because that's a network of like-minded schools who will be welcoming to everybody. So we try and signpost some of our children then. And we are very eager that when the children arrive back in the town, if it's 10 a.m. in the morning, if it's 1 a.m., we'd like them still in school that day. So the children are welcomed back with a big cuddle and tell us all about what you've been learning while you've been away. What we are very passionate about is encouraging our children into secondary. We have got a bespoke careers package with the University of Sunderland, who are fantastic at supporting Gypsy, Roma and Traveller pupils into higher ed. So they come and they open our children's eyes, all children, not just our Gypsy children, open all of the children's eyes to a life beyond secondary school and some of the different career opportunities that they might not have even known about. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to run 2 screens. Another thing that we celebrate is we've got a commitment to celebrating traveling. These children have a culture where they are nomadic. They do travel for work. And we've got children where you can see from that map, some of them at the moment are in Canada, some have been to New York, some go to Australia. And actually, there's an awful lot to learn from traveling. And I would hate to think that we had a school where these children come back into education and somebody says, oh, well, you've missed loads, because actually what they've learned while they've been traveling can be really, really rich. So we always make sure that we keep in touch with the children while they're traveling. We can offer remote learning opportunities. We ask them to keep a diary of what they're up to so that when they come back in, we've got a point of welcoming them back. What I will say at this point is some of our children are dual registered, so we have the correct attendance codes. When our children are traveling, we know where they are. We find text messages work better than ringing someone up at 9 o'clock our time and it's midnight their time. So we use text messages. We know where the children are. We track which schools they go to. And because our families are all the same here, if any of our travelling parents do travel, say, to Dubai for a fortnight's holiday around a pool, that's classed as an authorised absence like everybody else, because travelling is to travel for work purposes. So if the children are travelling with their parents for work purposes, then we do class it as travelling. But if it is a holiday, they will receive a fine just like everyone else, because everybody's treated the same here. Okay, that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of life at St. Teresa's. I'm happy to take any questions if anyone's got any, or I'm equally happy to just stay quiet for once. I'll stop sharing.
So we've unmuted.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Yeah, so I've only just jumped in there at the very end. I'm sorry I'm late, everyone. I've just doctor's appointment that seemed to take hours. But I wanted to ask, because I was just thinking about what I'm about to present, do any of your pupils, or sort of what proportion would you say have a sort of winter base or have a chalet on a site and then travel just in the season, or is it mainly that they have
probably about, rough estimate, about 30-40%.
all right, okay.
So I've got children at the minute who are in Canada, and I know I'll see them at the end of October, and then I know they'll go again in April.
Right.
So we do have patterns of work. And then obviously, if children haven't got those bases across the world, bless them, it's when the weather changes. So if it's a particularly bad winter, they'll stay here longer. Or if the weather suddenly turns, there's a storm coming this week, so I'm expecting a few more back, because some of our parents are gardeners and you can't cut trees down in these high winds. So we'll probably end up with some children arriving back. Okay.
Paula, I have a question for you.
Okay.
As either churches or church groups, what's a good way, what's the best way for people to, if they want to get involved with education, how can they get involved with a school? Or if they think if there's a school with a large population of Gypsy or Roma or Traveller pupils or showman pupils, what's the best way to engage with the school? How do we go about that?
Ask to speak to the head. We are always desperate for anybody to come and help in any way. Some of our parishioners come in here and hear readers, which is always oh yes, please, that would be amazing. Some of our parishioners will just come in and say, can I give you a hand if you're running a coffee morning? But I would just say, go and have a conversation with the head. And as far as engaging with the community, I would say to talk to them. Just that I find this community, well, I find all communities actually are exceptionally willing to speak to people who are interested in their life. So I think it's just that openness. But I would definitely, if anybody rang me and said, Paula, can I have a chat about how we can give you some help or come and get involved? Yes, please. And the door's always open.
Hi, let me put my camera on. I'm in Sheffield, and one of our, I suppose, the challenges is we work with some of the Roma community, and language is an issue. I've used WhatsApp. Sometimes a lot of them are literate, so I can't even use WhatsApp. So, and they can't speak English, so we can't find anyone from the Roma traveling community that can be the middle person, if that makes sense. So, any ideas how to help?
Language is a huge barrier there, and we don't have any. None of our children here are Roma, but the illiterate side of life, I do lots of Facebook videos. So I will do a video, and then our parents can see it. I'm aware that a lot of our community use the voice notes on WhatsApp. But yeah, we do a lot with video. Just as a side, we're one of the schools that's affected by RAC. So I've done a video very early one Saturday morning to tell the children that we'd sort it out. That then got shared on all of our local news channels. So if you're doing a video, I'd recommend you make sure you do your hair and your makeup before, because quickly doing a cute video for your children that then goes on the news is not great. But lesson learned. But yeah, videos. And I wonder if there's some piece of software, because on our website, you can change to different languages at the touch of a button. But I wonder if there's something that Facebook would do, some sort of translation into Roma, or because they've got translation options up.
Thank you.
So I wonder, I'm not sure. I don't know if Rosa might be able to help at that point.
Yeah, our next speaker, I was going to say, our next speaker, Rosa, I think is based in Sheffield. So maybe she'll have something when she comes on next that might answer some of your questions.
I think Martin had his hand up.
Yeah, on the Romani language, it's not generally a written language, so there's no interface with things like Google Translate and so on. But what I would suggest you do, Kinder, is rather than communicate with your clients in Romani language, go through their national language, whether that's Romanian or Serbian or Czech or whatever. Go through their national language, because then you will find, I think, translating facilities in things like Google Translate and so on.
Thank you.
Nikki?
I wanted to ask Paula if she could talk to us a bit more about how you've done this secondary how you support children so well to make the transfer to secondary school.
Yeah, of course, Nikki. It works really well because we're actually part of Multi-Academy Trust. So our natural feeder school is Carmel College up the road. And because we've got those relationships, I identify which children might be thinking about secondary and which might need a bit more of gentle persuasion to see if it's something they'd be open to. And I actually take them up and we spend a day. We'll have a tour around with some of our older Gypsy Roma traveller children who are up there already. They'll show us around. A big thing apparently is we always stay for lunch together. And then a lot of the older children will come back and chat to us. So we do quite a phased transition, and we'll take the children up as much as we need to make them feel comfortable. And I think it's also about letting the parents ask as many questions that they want to around secondary education as they can. Okay.
Paul, are you able to say a little bit more about the pledge?
Yes, so the Gypsy Roma Traveller Showman Boater in Education Pledge, to give it its full title, is born out of, there was originally a Gypsy Roma Showman Boater pledge in higher education, which was to try and open people's options for going to university, and there was commitments that colleges and universities needed to make to sign up to the pledge. One of them was outreach, another one was data collection. So a working party of us got together and created a pledge for primary and secondary schools too. And at the moment, it's very much a sharing of best practice, getting together and seeing if there's any common issues, what's working well, what do we need to change. And it's basically a group of like-minded schools coming together and saying, actually, we genuinely are inclusive. We're inclusive to everybody, and we're going to pledge our commitment to these underrepresented communities within education. It's also working quite well from education perspective, because we're having conversations with Ofsted and saying, actually, when inspectors are in school, these are the challenges that you may find working with this community. Because there are certain aspects of having a high percentage of Gypsy, Roma, Traveller, Showman and Boater children that actually Ofsted need to be aware about when they come. So it's having those conversations with them at the highest level so that that filters down to an inspector.
Are there any more questions for Paula at all?
I wondered if you've used mentors, you know, young children from secondary or older as mentors at all, either in secondary or primary or the transition.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've got some role models who come from Sunderland Uni who will come and share their experience with the children, and some of our children who have actually been electively home educated, but there was a big piece of work called Moving on Aim and High by Darlington Travel Education Service. So a lot of our children who hadn't gone into secondary then went back into college to get some qualifications in different trades. Some of them are joining us on Tuesday to be ambassadors to try and run these events with us. They'll come back and they'll talk to our children, because our children here have a very bespoke relationships education, and a lot of them will come back and talk to them about different career options and share their experiences of life at college as well. So we do link in with them. We see them quite a lot. Don't think there's any more questions, Paul. I can't see anyone's hand up. My email address is on the bottom of the PowerPoint, and we're always more than willing to take a call, answer an email, or show people around. Okay. And Nikki, since it's you around the corner, you'd be very welcome anytime.
Yeah, I've got a little question. I was very intrigued at what you were saying, Paula, about the families going abroad
Yes.
to work, not on holiday. Give me, you know, right as far as Canada and so on. Can you give me some idea of what work they're doing when they're going abroad, the families?
So tarmacking is huge in Australia and Canada. And some of our families have got everything set up over there. So they basically arrive, they've got all of their vehicles that they need over there, and they kind of run two bases. So it seems to be very much traditional traveller work still.
Yes, I wasn't aware it was, you know, transferable internationally like that. It's very interesting.
We were fascinated, to be honest. Yeah, it's really, really intriguing. You wouldn't imagine that you'd need to travel right to Australia to tarmac, but we must have a very good reputation for it.
And do they get work permits, and how long can they stay in the other country?
They're always over there for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then they come back.
Does that happen reciprocally? Do we have any people like from Australia?
Not at St. Teresa's. So I don't know. Yeah, I think everybody really has tried to travel for work since COVID. COVID hit this community massively because they couldn't work. Really hit this. No problem. No problem.
I have a question about how you keep children on the roll, like keeping places in the school, because we have this situation with our Roma families that they regularly go to Romania, but if they're not here in September, they lose their place, and then they'll roll in at the end of September, October, and they've not been able to hold the place, and they say the council forces them to do that. So I'm curious how you manage to keep your children on.
So if children are traveling, as long as you know where they are, so it could be that your families are not keeping in touch with the school. So there could be two different things happening here. So if children just don't arrive for school and we have no idea where they are, there's then a safeguarding legal statutory responsibility that's called children missing in education, and you've got to follow that procedure. So if you can't get in touch with the families, you then, well, we do door knocks and everything, but if you've no idea where they are, you've got to register them as missing in education with your local authority. And then if your local authority pick that up, that's when schools can take them off roll. But because of our relationships, we know where our children are going, so we know where they are. The other thing is they've got to do a certain number of school days. And I always get this bit wrong. It's 100 and something school days in a year. It doesn't need to be in an academic year. It's in a calendar year. So they've got to do a certain amount of school days to keep their place.
Okay. Do you think it's up to the head of the school to either fight for them to keep a place or to let them go?
Relationships are key. And sadly, if you don't want to welcome communities, it's very easy not to.
Okay. I think in our situation, the school is so oversubscribed. There's such a long waiting list that's why they give the place to another child.
Yeah. See, we're oversubscribed too, but I firmly believe that these children are members of our school family. And I equally know that if my children aren't with us, they're then out of education, and these children need to be in education. So we will keep spaces. We won't keep spaces for them. They're on our roll. So as long as we know where they are, and I can safely say I know where these children are, because that's crucial with these children. With traveling children, as a head, I still need to know where all my children are, and I call them mine because I'm ridiculously protective. But if a child doesn't arrive in on a morning by 9:30 and I haven't got a reason why, whether they're a Gypsy kid or a Polish kid or whoever they are, I'm on the phone, where are you? Because my worst case scenario is they've been knocked over on the way to school and no one knows about it. You need to know where children are. It's the head's responsibility. But I think inclusion has the buck stops at the head. If you're a head that is serving your school community, everybody should be welcome. That's me on my soapbox a bit.
That's so good. Sorry, my last practical question. So while that child is gone from, you say, September to October, do you let another child sit in their seat in the classroom? And then,
do I let another child sit in their seat?
Yeah, no. Do you accept another child? No, you just leave it. So there'll be 25 children in the classroom instead of 30. And
because you've still got your numbers on roll. So if a child, I suppose flipping it in its simplest terms, if a child's got mumps and is off for a month, I don't go, oh, well, someone else can come in for a month.
Yeah.
So that child's peg is written out for them, their seat is there, their books are all labelled for them when they come back.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula.
No problem.
Just checking that, and if anybody does want to contact Paula, I have her email address as well. We have that, so we can pass that on to whoever needs that.
Super.
I know you've got a lot. I know you've got a lot of concrete issues to deal with still. So
I'm going to meet some surveyors, and I wish you all a lovely day. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Okay, I'd like to invite Rosa to share with us. Rosa is Roma at Coventry University, but I think it's based in Sheffield. So Rosa, can you like to tell us a bit more about yourself and?
Yes. So good morning, everyone. I've moved to what I hope is a quieter space. I'm in school today. Can you hear me all right? Yes. Paul, can I share screen, please? Is that possible?
Just give me a moment.
So while we're doing that, my name is Rosa Cisneros. I am Spanish Roma. And I've lived in different countries in Germany, Spain, Turkey, and now in the UK. And I've been in the UK for about 8.5, 9 years now. And I've been supporting Roma families across the country, some Romanian, some Czech, some Slovak. We have a few Spanish families, not many. So, and I've worked, while I'm at the university, I also have do some independent work, so some consultancy work. I've worked with the police, with the city councils. I've actually worked in the city council. So I have a lot of kind of a real understanding of the challenges of working with our families, working with the services, kind of bringing and marrying some of those relationships. I also have that insider perspective of what it's like to go through educational spaces, to be excluded, to, you know, even working at university, I know that I'm the only Roma woman there, and what that means and how that plays out. And when I'm in schools, I also see my own daughter has been bullied. And so, you know, like I understand the layers of this situation in many, many, many ways. And at the end of it, I'm very proud to say I am Dr. Rosa Cisneros, not because I care about titles, but because my mother, who is a woman from a family of 14 children, only girl, couldn't read and write, cleaned houses, completely very traditional family, was the one who said to me, education was what was going to change not only my life, but our family's life. And she insisted when I was a very, very little girl that I was going to university, regardless of where we were, how hard it was, and how much money it cost. And so given that kind of permission, or let's say direction, from someone that was coming from a very marginalized background, that's what brought me to this place, which is also why I love and really believe in education. And, you know, I don't think you have to go to university or become a doctorate to understand that education gives us certain tools to have, to be who we are. And some parts of me are very traditional and other parts aren't. And I've navigated that with my family, but also I navigate that alongside other families as I'm supporting or just being and around them. And so I share that because I'll show some projects that kind of maybe give evidence and we could use to help convince, you know, because we know we're in school systems, they need data, they are looking for ways to not do the work. And so we need these projects, we need ways to prove that education is the way forward, that we can engage our families, and it actually isn't as hard as we think it is. It's just about following what Paula was saying. It's about your mindset and about relationships, and it's also about celebrating those differences. So I will start my screen. Hopefully this works. Can you see that now? Yes, great. So yeah, let's play from the start. So as I said, I believe in using our heritage, and that is part of who we are. We all can bring something from our past into a situation and have and find a shared language and understanding. I believe in activism work because it's not just going to happen. We have to be willing to risk something, and that is part of what I think we're all doing here. And that changing things doesn't necessarily only happen in a classroom. There are different ways that we can do that. And in my case, I like to use films or resources and working alongside the families, because seeing is believing. I could tell you A, B, and C, but if you see it for yourself, you know, that picture, that film, it's a little bit easier for it to hit the heart. So this was why I started the consultancy company. And it also allowed me to have, I think it speaks to that Roma nature of being an entrepreneur, of having skills that are passed on to you from generation to generation, and to thinking about and to problem solving. The last question I think you asked, was it Leah, around kind of families and Romanian families kind of coming back. And I think that reflects this kind of in the moment, let's put out the fires now, and that lack of long-term investment. And that's tricky. That's a mindset. You know, if you have so many barriers and so many things that you're fighting against on a daily, thinking about budgeting, thinking about long-term school placements, it's just not there. We're shifting that, but it's also about having that conversation in a way that isn't patronizing, that isn't, you know, it's just kind of explaining that cycle, that work. And that's a bit of what I'm able to do alongside the families, to find that shared, you know, I could say it, but if I can convince another family to see it, to believe it, then they can share it. And that's how we start to change it, removing the roses in the space and bringing in other people that are also activists. And one of the ways that personally I'm doing that is with this project. It's an EU project where we're looking at really changing. So my charity in Spain, we've been working for 20 years. We have education is fundamental to everything we do. And in the charity, we say you create, you take role models, you look at a problem that's in the school or in the home or in a service, and you say, well, what could we do what could be the next step? What is the solution? Rather than autopsying why it's happening, anti-Gypsyism, that's valid. But we say, what's the next step? Let's dream big. And you get people thinking about it. And then you find a collective kind of immediate, medium, and long-term plan. And you get the families involved in that plan. And it starts to change educational spaces. And within this project, we took that knowledge that we had of working in Spain, and we said, well, could we transfer that to Bulgaria, to the UK, to Greece, to Hungary, and other parts of Spain? So 5 very different countries, very different languages, very different Roma groups. And we realized that actually, yes. So if you bring, the method is, if you bring women, role models, family members, not necessarily university, you know, it could be grandmas that just volunteer in the school. But if you bring them into this space and have meetings, maybe every 4 or 5 months, discuss the problem, discuss how you've problem solved, what that solution was, and some of the impact, you start to build a momentum. And these don't necessarily cost much money. It can be a Saturday afternoon in a church, which often it has been. It can be in a space, in an educational space. We found that the church is actually a key part, an entry into gaining the trust and permission, for lack of a better word, to start to have those conversations. The one thing that is very specific to our gatherings and to creating these inclusive educational spaces is that it's Roma women and Roma girls only, because the women speak differently when it's just women. It's not that the men aren't involved. It's not that they're getting away. It's not that we're saying it's a patriarchal society. It's not that. But what we're saying is the women are often involved in the educational or in monitoring and getting the kids to and from school or doing that side of the work. And so let's focus on the women. Let's get the women and young girls into that space, because we also know that marriage at an earlier age and those traditions are very particular to the girls. It doesn't mean that after we don't engage with the men or engage with the male religious leaders. Of course they're involved, but we create a very safe space for the women to dialogue and to talk about education on their terms. And that then kind of is wildfire in the community. And so we've been doing these for 20 years in Spain, and we've now taken it to the other countries, and we actually see the impact it's had. If you look online, all of those resources are available, translated into the different languages. We've got films, and it gives you a real sense of the energy and vibrancy that what it means when a school opens up or a religious leader opens up their space to allow education to be part of the conversation, not say that education is going to take you away from your community, but rather let's bring out all along and find a new shared space. These are just examples of some of the families, some of the resources we've created with families that are very religious that felt it's important to show their belief in God and to have that to show that community feeling that they find in the church, and solace and solidarity. This is another project I'll skip over. But I did want to get to the pledge, because the pledge, as Paula discussed earlier, is with Gypsy, Roma, and Traveler, and Showman and Boater community members. And we're working with schools. Again, we're using and gathering data, because having that data is important. We now know that GRT numbers are going up in higher education, whether that's because more people are self-identifying, whether that's because of the pledge, we don't know, but we now have that information, so we can start to change and have a counter narrative to what is usually out there. Oh, the Gypsies don't want to study. Oh, they don't care about their education. Oh, we do. It's just not really well known by, or not believed. And so these initiatives allow that and put us on the map in a very different way. My role in the pledge has been, well, I supported the pledges from the very, very beginning, again, allowing and kind of feeding into thinking about what intercultural education means, what it means in higher education and in the schools, but also now I've taken it into developing the films and making sure that the films are not only inclusive, accessible, translated, but also made with the families and with those communities. Those are all online. We're finishing up the Boaters and the Showmen. Yes, and the Showman films this month. Those will be available as well. So again, it's just kind of putting a face to a community member, because it's easy to hate someone you don't know. But if I sit there and show you an individual or a child, hopefully that can start to shift some of that fear, that hate. And these are just some of the families that were involved in the films. So yes, I'll stop there. Thank you. And now if you have any questions, happy to answer questions.
Hi, can I ask a question about what you were saying about sort of having the women and the girls involved, because it was just the dynamics of that. How do you I'm kind of someone who would have been that in some of my earlier sort of experiences with other academics or people who were doing projects. I was the community member that went along, and it was a lot of sort of women and girls, and I feel like as I've then wanted to be the community member going into the practitioner, the academic myself, I'm not in the room with just women and girls, and I do find myself in spaces where I have to sort of this isn't a fully formulated thought, so just bear with me, where I'm sort of sitting with men around the table, and it can be intimidating, it can be difficult, there are challenges there, and I've got to have that voice. But I was wondering, I don't know, I'm just a big advocate of like learning how to do that. And I don't know if do you think there's a point where it's worth having more people in the room to try and, from different sort of, I don't know, to try and develop?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so when I first encountered it with the charity, I questioned it. I thought, well, why? You know, shouldn't everyone just feel that they can be in this space? But the reality is that happens often. There are very few spaces where it is just GRT women together talking about some of those. And it's not that non-GRT women aren't allowed, but that is a criteria. And the criteria is just that for that specific occasion. After that gathering, after that meeting, it then opens back up. It doesn't stay exclusive. It's not removing others forever. It's just saying for this particular meeting, this feels important. And we found that when that happens, then there's a shared kind of understanding in the space that people just feel more comfortable to go deeper, to really say what's on their mind or what they're really thinking. And so it does shift it. And I think it goes back to kind of Roma, GRT, or any community saying what they need. And that's hard to kind of give ourselves that permission to say, actually, today I just want a group with women only. Now, of course, women now is a term that can be, you know, and that's something we're also navigating, like how to, if someone self-identifies as a woman, they're allowed to be in that space. There's no one at the door saying, you're not allowed here because of A, B, and C. Like, you know, I think that in that sense, we're still very inclusive, but the gatherings allow for the women to talk about their fears in a way that I think changes when they're in a space with men or with other authorities and they have to kind of prove themselves. It takes that energy away from it.
Yeah. And I suppose it empowers you and teaches you skills within that to then carry on to those down the line, those difficult times where you have to sort of, like you're saying, be brave or be tough or try and push yourself.
Yeah, and you know, we never force anyone. It's not a gathering. I mean, now the gatherings can be 200 women plus, but in the beginning there were 2 women. And you know yourself, if you're just talking to your friend or someone who's you're comfortable with, you won't code switch, you won't change the way, you know, those expressions will just be there. Because, so again, I think it's about finding the criteria that works for you or for your organization or your church and build on that rather than trying to make it something that it's not. So, but you know, education is, you know, we set up the criteria. We say we're here to talk about education. We're not here to kind of beat each other up. That there's like a 0 tolerance, no violence, no kind of violent language, none of that, you know, because you also have clans and they're fighting. And so like, we just shut that down ASAP. And it's a group of volunteers and we just know how to do that because we have that experience. But you know, we definitely just set up a structure, criteria, and this is how, if you're coming to this party, this is how you're going to be in the space. And those guidelines are there. And people actually feel safe when they know that you're holding a space for them in a very specific way.
Rosa, I find this immensely encouraging. What you've been sharing was amazing, that you found a way through what seemed to me a real impasse in getting Roma people really keen to go into further education. When I was working in Luton, I was always trying to encourage the young Roma people growing up to consider a career, consider further education. And often some of the girls are very, very intelligent girls, spoke fluently several languages, and they always came back with the same reason why they didn't want to do that. And I'd be really grateful if you could say what your way through is on this. They always said to me, well, no, thank you for saying such kind things about us, but we're going to get married and we're going to have lots of children, and that's what we want to do in life. And they then within a few years actually did that. So how do you address that issue?
It's tricky. You have to have a space so that you can have that candid conversation. You have to have other role models or other people in the space that can speak to that. Oftentimes I'm someone that says I didn't marry until I was 28, 29. I didn't have my children until I was 34. And even so, when I went back to work, I went back after a month, my children came along with me. I made spaces family friendly and I made spaces accept my Roma lifestyle or my Roma values. And there is a lot of fear, but there's also a lack of belief that there's another way. And so those Roma girls and Roma moms and families and fathers have to see that they can still be Roma, even if something's changing. And it's easier if that comes from someone like me or another community member than, you know, but it does help, you know, we have to work together and it does take time. And it does, you know, of course you feel that kind of deflated, like, oh no, you're so talented, please don't, like, or you can, you know, I always say to them, don't just do nails, get a business degree, accounting, so that you can own the nail salon, you know, think big. Because again, it goes back to this kind of short, medium, long-term thinking. That investment, that thinking about what motherhood means, or what, it's just what we do. Well, actually, no, not really. You know, you don't have to do that. There are other ways that we could do that. Hello. So again, it's just kind of having candid conversations and knowing that you might not be liked. Like, I know some families don't like me in the beginning, but they respect me because they know where they stand with me. And eventually they actually do love me, you know. So, but you need those community members there in order to build that trust and to have those conversations.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. Thank you so much. I think old men like me probably need to keep out of this, but it's great to know the work is going. You found a way through.
No, I don't think you have to keep out. I think stay in, keep talking, you know, because that's the other thing. I know, and I guarantee you saying that to them gives them a little bit of, oh,
okay.
They just don't know how to receive that, because we've been told most of our life that we're nothing, that we don't belong there, that you know, and that is an internal thing. I still fight that, you know, and I know now, and what I say to the girls is, education is the one thing no one can take away from you. They can take away my clothes, they can take away my house. I can go in anywhere now and drop Dr. Cisneros, and no one can take that away from me. I don't, but if I have to, I do. And that's power. And that's what I say to them. Education is your power, your beliefs, your values. That's your power. That's your superpower. Don't let go of that.
And they're not afraid of compromising their Roma culture and values when they go further into education. There's no fear of that. No.
There is fear of, you know, you're less Roma if you go into education. You're less Roma if you don't get married. But that's just, again, coming from what they've seen or heard. If they see more and more people that actually have gone into their education, aren't doing, you know, small crime to survive, aren't, you know, that narrative shifts. And I think here in the UK, especially in Sheffield, we're at a point now, 7 years, 8 years now, where you have this first generation now going into secondary schools. They now speak English. I think in the next 3-5 years, you'll see more and more university students coming out or going into university from our Czech, Slovak, Roma background families, because they're embedded here, and the families are really afraid and thinking, oh, we have to be more Roma because but that, I think they'll slowly start to let go of some of that. Sorry, I know I've taken a lot of time, so please do email me, ask me any questions. I'm sorry I can't stay the whole day. I have to go back to class. Sorry.
It would be very helpful to have a list of your videos if we were allowed to put them on our website under a section that, you know, that people could access. If you could let Ivy have that at some point.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I can send all that information, the pledges, the projects, I can do that, no problem.
Is there any other quick questions for Rosa before she goes? Her email address and website is in the chat. Okay, thank you very much, Rosa. It's much appreciated you coming today.
Thank you, thank you. And I've put my YouTube channel also in the chat. It has a lot of different films, different projects. And yeah, do reach out, and I'm happy to support in any way I can. And to answer the question around language, I think, Indra, that you had earlier, you have to find that community connector. And it might be someone who is really established or someone who is a bit shy in the community. But I think the churches always know and can identify who that is, or even the schools. Schools often know that parent that is showing up a bit shy and just needs a bit of encouragement. But in Sheffield, I don't know where you're working, but there are, you know, especially in Furvale and in Page Hall, there are a few families that are willing that can speak English and Roma.
Yeah, we're allowed to be working with, I'm at the Oasis Academy and I'm working with the Furvale, trying to find
Okay.
that link person.
Yeah.
So,
I'm at Oasis every Monday.
ah,
Not today.
yes,
And then at Furvale. So I might see you around in the next few
wonderful.
days. Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Okay, let's take a very quick 5-minute stretch break. And then when we come back, we've got Lily and Terry Green will speak, the two Romany young people, and also Pacey Manning, and we've got Candice as well. But let's have a quick 5 minutes and then we will start back up again. Okay then, right, welcome back. I want to introduce Lily Green and Terry Green. Lily Green is 16 years old and lives on a local authority managed traveller site in East Sussex. She's now left secondary school and she has plans to attend college to secure a qualification and is working with her school, or has been working with her school careers team to sort this. And her main interest is makeup and she'd like to be an air hostess. And Terry is 12 years old and he also lives on the local authority managed travel site in Sussex and attends a secondary school near his site. He's an active member on the Friends, Families and Travellers Youth Advisory Board. His main interests are snooker and gaming, and he plays in a snooker tournament in his local area against other local teams. So Lily and Terry, are you there to share with us?
Yeah, we're here both together.
So I don't know how you want to do it, if you want one of you at a time or both together. How would you?
Just go with the flow.
Go on.
You can go. I don't know.
Ivy, come with a little bit of helping.
I'm here, don't worry, I'm here. I'm going to give you a question to start you off with, Terry. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey in secondary school?
It's been hard because it's all stereotyping inside the school. The teachers, they try and make fun of you. All they want to do is really just start. They don't properly give you an education. To be honest, it's just like your piece of rubbish on the ground, really, inside the school. They don't really care what you're doing or whatever.
And Terry, are you full-time at secondary or part-time?
I'm part-time at secondary.
Was this because of issues with the school or choice of your own?
This is because of issues with the school.
So they've still not been resolved. And Lily, what about your journey in secondary?
Oh well, I didn't go for I missed year 7, year 8 and year 9, and then I went back in year 10 because I got really bored at home and there's nothing else to do, so I just joined school again. And then I done year 10. I wasn't really in that much, and then my first proper school year was year 11, and then I done my GCSEs and it was alright, but you still obviously had problems, and they do have favourites and they do pick and choose when they want to know you. So mine obviously ain't been as bad as my brother's because I don't actually know why, but my brother's had a worse time than me, I guess.
Now, Terry and Lily, can you remember a while back, there's Crown Prosecution Service, we did some training with them, and we spoke about hate and prejudice in schools, and they visited the school. Did that make any difference?
No.
No, they didn't.
No. If actually, yeah, it made it a bit worse.
Yeah, it made 10 times worse than it actually was.
Because they didn't really know much, and now because they've learnt about it and they learnt some stuff they think they know about us, and then it gives them more reason to pick on you and stuff. and like they come in with sneaky comments all the time.
So Terry, you're only going part-time. Do you think that's a long-term solution, or do you think you're going to go back to full-time ed secondary?
I don't know, to be honest. I think they put me in part time because they don't really want me inside the school.
They don't trust you.
They don't trust me inside the school for some reason. I don't know.
And does friends, families, and travellers still help with school issues?
Yeah, friends, family, travellers help with school issues, but to be honest, it's straight over the shoulder with them, straight over the head. Friends, family, travellers is like giving information. They're helping us as much as they can, but with the school, it's just going straight over their head. That's what they think of it.
Is there other gypsies and travellers in that school?
There's,
Uh,
I think there's 3 of them,
I think there's 3 other travellers in there,
but they won't say that they're travellers.
but they're ashamed to say that they're travellers because they get treated differently.
Like I'm telling you, they get like education. They get treated this like the same as everyone else, but they don't. It's weird because when it comes down to us, because everyone knows what we are, we got treated very differently to what they did.
What do you think needs to change, and how can we change it?
I just think the whole school system completely needs to change because it's a hard one, really. The whole school system needs to change. The teachers need to be a lot more nicer to the travellers.
Just need to stop thinking we're bad people.
They need to stop thinking we're bad people because we are nice people. It's just, yeah.
Has the journey been worth it, oh?
I had a good time in school. I can't lie. No,
It is a laugh inside school. The journey has been good.
So would you recommend other children to uptake a secondary?
I wouldn't know. Well, if you're a travel child, yeah, you can stick up for yourself because you know, like, how to stick up for yourself. But if you're a little soft person, like you're very soft-hearted, I don't think you make it in a secondary school at all. Because the amount of abuse like that you get from other people, like calling your
ridiculous.
names and stuff. Like if you have a soft heart, you wouldn't be able to get through school. Like I'm being very truthful. Like our cousin, she was very soft, and then after a time, you had to toughen her up a bit because you just had to deal with it. Like that's the stuff that you had to go through every day, getting name calls and it was long. It was very confusing.
So would you say in the secondary school you had no allies, not even one teacher?
We did have one teacher.
We had one teacher. Her name was Jo Ogden.
And she helped us like every way possible.
She's tried helping us. She's tried helping us in every way possible. But the more she's helping us, the more she's risking her job because they've already threatened her once or twice. So this is what she said to us. She said they threatened me that if I keep working with yous, they would sack me. So she stopped working with us for a little while, and then she came back into the little group thing we've got inside the school.
But she was always still there because she was my head of year. So if I ever had problems anyway, I was allowed to go to her because she's like my head of my year. So I could go to her anyway.
So Lily, now that you've left school, is the plan still the same to be a hair hostess?
I can't do my thing until I'm 18, but I don't know yet. I'm a bit stuck because I can't really go to college right now because I signed in for my college thing. It went through. I went to meetings and stuff with the school, and then we get a email. All my friends is going to college, to the same college as me, and they get an email saying, "Oh, come in on this day, come in on that day." And then when it was, I never got no emails at all. So they and then they turned around and told me that my course wasn't even a course, and I said, so I done a meeting with everyone else for nothing. So there obviously is a course.
Even though a mate who's doing the same course and the same
It's
stuff
in college right now.
is it doing the same stuff that Lily picked. She's in it right now. She's doing it.
But they told me that there was no such thing as this course, and basically that I had to go to a different college. My mum said, well, I can't do that because I'm driving 3 different ways in this longer.
Do you think, Lily, that there needs to be some form of link worker for secondary and college to make them aware that they can't discriminate against individuals?
I think there does, because it's quite hard, because when I was on my own, because I was the first one to join like the school, I didn't know no one. I didn't have like anyone with me. I had to make new friends and everything, and that was quite hard. And as soon as they found out like who I was, because I didn't hide it from no one, I ain't ashamed of who I am. But when they found out who I was, I'm telling you, the amount of stick that I got from everyone, and then I just stuck up for myself. And to be honest, I made like quite a lot of friends. But then as the New Year's come, like, and new ones joined, they obviously found out, and then they just called names. But I do think you need someone supporting you like through the school year, because I don't get the reason why you have to just be horrible for it. I don't see it. They're all the same.
So, Lily and Terry, I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to throw it to the group. I'm just trying to help you along. Has living on a site been an issue, like with friends and visits, or is it just purely because you're Romany gypsies?
Both.
It's both really. Nobody wants to come down the site because they think their car will get smashed up. They think we're going to it, steal their stuff. And it's us as well, just as our Romany travellers as we are. They're not nice people.
We
blah
can't
blah
even
blah.
order a takeaway.
Yeah, we can't even order a takeaway without going. We can't deliver there.
And also, obviously I can't drive yet, but like next year I'm driving, and you can't get insurance here. You have to like proper struggle to find insurance.
We can't get insurance on any of our mobile homes, nothing like that.
You can't get no insurance because once you say it's a caravan site, that's it. They're like, no, oh sorry, we can't do that for you.
One more question. Do you think that the church could help?
Really and truthfully, to be honest with you, I don't think it's gonna work because we've had multiple charities tried to help us, and it hasn't worked. So if this does work, it'd be.
I feel like a lot of travellers is very like religious. So we're religious. Like there's a lot of people who's religious. So it could work though. It depends.
It depends, really.
Thanks, Terry and Lily. I'm going to throw you to the lambs to the slaughters now to the rest of the group.
Hi, Lily and Terry. It's Paul here. I had 2 or 3 different questions. Maybe I'll ask one. Were you in primary school at all?
Yes, we was in primary school, but
I done the full year.
Yeah, we made it through primary school, but
okay. So did you do all 6 years, or just some of that, or you homeschooled some of that, or?
I did to year 5,
and
I missed the last year.
Yeah.
Because I was doing stuff like going out to work and all stuff like that.
I did the full year 6, and then I joined a school before we like lived on this site. I joined a secondary school for 3 months, and then we moved, and then I got homeschooled till I was in year 10.
Right. Okay. So how was primary school for you?
Oh, great. I loved it. I actually did. It was the best primary school ever. I don't think because no one knew what it was, like, because they're children, like, they don't really understand too much of it. So they weren't really that big of a deal because everyone wants to be your friend. Because when you're a baby, like, no one takes notice. If you're a nice person, they'll be nice back. It's just when you get secondary school, that's when you don't know what you do.
So how do you think, do you have, and you might not have any answers to this, how do you think things could be done better to help you go from primary school to secondary school? Because that's something I've noticed with young people I work with. They can do very well in primary school, but as soon as they go into secondary school, it gets really, really difficult for them. How could that be changed, do you think? Or how could you be supported more to make that step from primary into secondary?
Yeah, there's no way because people are still gonna pick on you anyway. Like, once you get into like year 7, I think everyone thinks they're so big, and they think, oh, now I'm big now, or like something like that, and then they just pick on you for anything because they see the older children doing it, so then like they copy them, and then
like they're here just say the older years say to us, yeah, don't need like dirty jippos and stuff like that. They'll like say all that, they'll keep that, and they'll say it to us as well because they think that's right, and they don't really understand the meaning of what that means.
I had a girl apologise to us. Do you remember the girl?
Yeah.
There's a question there from Nikki, I think.
I just keep dropping in and out. You might have already said it, but Lily and Terry, it's wonderful listening to you. If you had 3 wishes about all this, what would they be? 3 wishes.
Wait.
That's a hard one.
Question. I just wish people would be more understanding.
Yeah, more understanding.
And just
stop stereotyping us.
Because there's good and bad in every race. Like, no matter what colour you are, that you're always going to get good and bad in everyone. So people just need to stop judging because they only show like the bad all the time. They never show like the good side because we're all human. We all feel the same thing. We all bleed the same. What else is there that we could wish for? I actually have no. Maybe get like a little bit. I feel for the ones who go for like secondary school. I just hope they like have a good, easy go on there. That's why.
Yeah.
I noticed you said in secondary school you have to be tough to be able to survive it.
Yeah.
And I will be careful how I word this because I'm not quite sure. I'm saying this as I'm thinking it aloud. Does that, because you've got to be tough to be able to survive it, does that become almost like a cycle that because you've got to be tough, because if you're not tough, you're not going to survive? Do then people start reacting to you more, if that makes sense? Do you get a does that, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like do they get?
And then they start saying, "Oh, this is who they are." You get given you get more of a reputation because you're trying to protect yourself, and that's not fair.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's fine. Yeah, it does get like that though, because when we first joined, like we didn't expect it to be that much, and then we're quite like hard up people anyway. Like our mum and dad's brought us up like. We don't take nothing from no one. And then obviously we'd never be spiteful back, but sometimes it gets to
You
the
have to be
point.
cruel to be kind.
Yeah, it sometimes gets to the point where you've had enough of it and you just break, and then
Yeah.
you just have to tell them how it is. And then as soon as we done that, then everyone puts the blame on us and we're the bad
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So it comes in stages. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
Are there any other questions for Lily and Terry? No? Okay. Thank you so much for sharing this so honestly with us.
That's
Um,
Right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Terry and Lily. You can leave now if you wish, or you can stay if you like.
Okay.
Thank you.
See
See you.
ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
you.
Bye.
And is Pacey still there? Pacey Manning is Ivy's daughter, and I think she would like to share with us as well. I'll let you introduce yourself, Pacey.
Hello, my name's Paisley, as you can already tell. I'm 12 years old, and I've just started homeschooling very recently. And I just wanted to talk about my experience in primary school and stuff. So first thing I wanted to say about primary school is that the teachers were all really nice, and I literally cannot knock the head teacher or anyone of any person in the staff. They're all really nice and understanding, and they just didn't really judge and stuff, and they'd try and help me out as much as I can, and they were just really nice people. It's they didn't judge, but unlike some other kids, say in my school, they judged quite a bit and they didn't really understand. And I just when I was in year 1 or year 2, nobody invited me to birthday parties or anything, and it still happened throughout the years. I never literally got a single invite. I'm not sure if it was because of me being living on a site, or if it was just something like that, but it just felt really awkward at school sometimes. I'm just trying to do my work, and then I have people staring at me and murmuring stuff it's about me, and it's just I'm just a normal person, just like you. What makes me understand, I'm a tad bit different because I live in a mobile home, and I live on a traveller Gypsy Roma site, and that may be different about me, but I'm still a human being, and I shouldn't be judged, but everyone else was just look, she's she's a traveller, look, she's so different, and that sort of thing. They'd always pick and poke at things about me, and just stuff. And I like football, I like playing football, but the majority of the time I wasn't allowed to play football. They were saying, oh no, you can't play football with us. So it's why not? It's and they just wouldn't say. It's just, and then I went to the teachers, and they'd make sure I played football. But whenever I didn't tell the teachers, it's just I wasn't allowed to play football with them, and stuff. It's just really unfair. And I only had a small friend group of about 3 people, and that may seem a bit big, but everyone else in the whole entire school, they had about a good 10 friends, 15 friends. Half of the class was their friend, friends with them. So it's just it just felt really, I just felt really out of place, and I didn't belong. And so I just decided I wanted to do homeschooling instead, because I've heard that for travellers and stuff, and Romany Gypsy and stuff like that, is that secondary school is supposed to be really bad, and you're extremely discriminated against, since what Lily May and TJ said. It's it's just no one really will accept you, and they'll just discriminate against you and stuff like that. So I just didn't really feel comfortable enough to go to secondary school and go through all that of it. So I just wanted to do homeschooling and stuff. and I'm quite happy with my homeschooling. I'm doing lots of different stuff. I'm learning Japanese. I'm doing all different stuff. I'm writing. I'm doing lots of writing, maths. I'm doing like some PE stuff. Like I do my football like twice per week, but I also do some Zumba too, as like some other fitness sort of stuff, and also do a little bit of art. Or basically, I just try and like do all the like all the learning I can, so then I can possibly go to college or something, and like and like do my like get a really good job. That's what I wanted to say. Is there any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Hello.
Hiya. So first of all, that was really brilliant. Thank you. And a lot of what you talked about, I just and the two Terry and Lily May, it really reminded me of my experience. And I used to sort of go in and out of secondary school because I sometimes felt like I just didn't want to be there with a lot of the things that were going on. And I wondered if you've got like anyone that supports you. I know you'll have your mum and different family, but do you have like a tutor that comes by, or is there a program online that you can follow, or is it sort of self-guided stuff?
I don't really. Hold on. Wait, can you repeat that? Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just I over talk. No, I was wondering
No,
if
it's
there's
not.
like
It's
like homework or something that you're able
yeah.
to sort of access to help you with those different subjects that you mentioned. Like, is there something online you can follow, or do you have a tutor that comes in?
No, I don't have like a tutor right now. I'm planning on getting one, but I like what I do is I search up about like the thing I'm gonna do, and I also have these textbooks like and stuff, and like also have like a few like apps will like help me out like with my language and stuff. I have Duolingo and also have a like a Japanese from zero, learning Japanese from zero book, and it's like an integrated textbook learning thing, and with that I also do Duolingo, but inside on each at the end of each lesson in the book, it gives you the answers and you look through them and see if you're correct. But with like my maths stuff, what I do is I watch YouTube tutorials on how to do it and stuff, and then like how to like I don't know, do some algebra and like different type of algebra and stuff like that. And then what I do is once I've done that, I search up the answers to see if I got it right. And if I get it right, then I'll give it a tick. But if I didn't, then I'll try and work on it a little bit more, and until I can get it relatively almost all correct. So that's I don't really. I am going to get a home tutor soon though, hopefully.
Well, I hope you know how impressive that is, because you're almost the teacher and the student, and you're actually developing a skill set that people your age aren't developing, because you're able to actually plan and sort of have that we would call it self-guided, but it's just basically you doing it for yourself and learning as you go how to do that for yourself, and it's really impressive, really good.
Thank you. But yeah, my mum does help me out. She's quite smart, so does help me out on some of it. Bragging about my mum here. Is there any other questions?
I've got one. How do you say your name?
Heishi or
Patience.
Patience?
Patience. Wow. I'm a community hub member with the local school. And one of the things I do is I go in at lunchtimes and wander around just being a chaplain or just a listening ear. What question or what would help me notice? Because I know obviously the Roma children, I know quite a few of them. What would be the question to ask, or how can I find out if they need help or they are struggling, or without, yeah, because some of them may not want to share, because for listening to all three of you, it's been a struggle, and particularly with not support from the teachers or whatever. So is there a way I can ask a question, or what can I look out for that tells me that this child maybe struggling and needs help?
Well, if they're like complaining about their kids discriminating against them and they're not getting that much, like saying, "Oh, I'm struggling with this, so I'm struggling with that," ask them if ask them like, what are you struggling with and why are you struggling with it? So if it's like maths, they could just say, "Oh no, I just don't really get it." They say about, "Oh, the teachers aren't really helping me out when I'm like asking for help." Then that could be, I'm pretty sure it's like them not helping you out because you're a traveller or Romani Gypsy, or just because you live on a site, you know. And because of that, if you like if you like do something like that, then they hope like ask them a little bit like about their school experience, like what TJ and Lily May was asked by my mum. Then they should hopefully open up about it and be honest about it, and then you can start to progress. Like then they can start to progress a little bit better if you like learn a little bit more about what's going on in the schools, because I think that like for different cultures like Gypsy and travellers and Roma, they should have like a bit, they should implement like at least a group in each school, in my opinion, at least a group with where you can talk about like the stuff you're struggling with at school for these type of people and why, and then hopefully then they can start to like understand the problems and integrate like all the problems what people found, and like in and fix it and then integrate it all into like learning and the you know, the key stages and stuff like KS1 and KS2. But yeah, it's
Brilliant,
quite kind of a
brilliant.
hard question to answer, but
No, done a great job. It's just that those few phrases of struggling, because I hear kids saying I'm struggling all the time, and some of it is just you just walk past it and go, yeah, most kids, and how do we help? But that's really helping, and particularly a group, yeah, because obviously we could set something up for some of the young people, and some of the people we see on the streets. I might even ask them that question when I'm on the street, when I bump into them around the area, so they may speak up a bit more. No, that's really helpful, Patrick. Thank you.
you're welcome. Is there any more questions?
Sure, I'll ask a question. Do you think that kids that do the bullying, should the schools be more strict in punishing them as a way?
Oh, 1,000,000%. It's like one time it's like I was like, when I was in like year 2 or year 3, I can't remember the year, like it was like one of like, it was from reception to about year 3, it was so long ago. But so like people were calling like the kids, they probably picked it up from their parents, because my opinion, racism, it doesn't come from the child, it comes from the parents, or the or like just in general other family members. You know, it doesn't come from them, because children are learned to hate, you know. So like yeah, it's like one time they were like calling me like dirty Jippo, trailer trash, you know, stuff like that. And they didn't get in trouble one bit. They were just told to just apologize. Understand apology can work, but they were just like, "I'm sorry." It's like, I'm not expecting a full-on essay on why you're sorry and why you should be and stuff, but at least like put a little bit more thought into like apologizing rather than just saying I'm sorry. And it's just like the teachers, I understand there's nothing really they can do, but they don't keep them in from break, or they you know, they don't really do any punishments for them at all. It's like, you know, and then it's when it's like I don't know, when they like take a football out and when they're not supposed to, they stay in from break. It's like, how, why? It's like, why? It's like, it's just a football, and then when someone's being racist to me and discriminating against me, they do not get any punishment at all. They do not get a life lesson out of like why you shouldn't like be discriminating, you know, something like that, you know. Yeah, I do think they need to like sort out like the punishments in school just in general, like not just for discriminating and racism and stuff, but it's like just, well, for everyone, like punishment should be a little bit more different. I understand it because, like, in secondary school, I'm pretty sure you get detentions or isolation for stuff, but then in primary school, it's like you don't get anything. You don't get anything like that, you know. But yeah, that's
It's quite upsetting to hear. Some of us who don't realize what you all go through. I'm really
Yeah.
glad to hear it and to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Patience, can I ask one last question then? Because you're doing really well. I don't want to take too much of your time. But do you think so yes, I agree that there should be punishment, and I think that this should certainly be removed. You shouldn't have to remove yourself or find a space. They should be removed and put into a different space. But do you think that if they were educated a wee bit more on who you were and who we were, do you think that that would overtake some of the racism, and maybe there would be more of a positive understanding of who you are than the racism that they're sort of hearing at home? Or do you think it's more about, like, do you think that would work if they understood you better?
Yes, no. I feel like because I'm not homophobic or anything, but they have like a few lessons on like about Pride Month, and then it's like Black History Month, but then it's like nothing about us, you know, and it's talking about other people's cultures, but it's like, what about us, you know? We have our own culture, and we're you know, we've fought the right to be educated, fought for our rights to be educated, and you know, stuff like that. So it would work, but then again, it's like it would kind of contradict them learning about us, because immediately, because you know how like after like you go to school, it's like well, after you come home from school, it's like that your mum and dad, or your mum or dad, or like your sibling will ask, "Oh, how was school today? And what did you learn?" You say, "How was school?" And then you say what you learned, and you'd probably say about that lesson, and your parents would might, or your siblings might go off on a rant about how they hate them, and then it would just completely just like, it's just, what's the point, you know? And since obviously their parents are their parents, they're gonna learn from what their parents have done. It's like my mum's really nice and she's taught me how to be nice. So it's a bit, if she was really bad, but she isn't, and she'd obviously, it would rub off on me. So that would just again rub off on the children, and it's just no point in doing that unless, you know, they sort of like do lessons on it until there's no racism or discrimination at all left in the school. It can't, I don't know, it's really hard to explain it, but it's, you know.
Well, you've done really well. If you go into politics, you've got my vote. I think you're really good at this. I think there's a career there.
Yeah, I went to the Old Bailey once and I was the judge.
This is what's going to happen. I can see it happening now. Thank you.
Anyways, thanks for listening to me and stuff.
Thank you so much, Pacey. That was really good. Thank you for taking that time and also answering the questions as well. Okay, I'd like to introduce Candice. Candice Thomas is a showman from up in Scotland, from Glasgow, and we've not heard a showman's voice, I don't think, for a long time in this group. But so it was, I thought it was important to bring a showman into this group as well, and just hear from a different perspective and different background. So welcome, Candice.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So, having spoken to you, Paul, and you explaining that there hadn't been much of a showman's voice in it before, I wondered if it was worth taking a little minute just to explain who we are, and where we fit within the GTRSB, and questions around whether or not we actually do fit within that. And so I've got just a couple of images I'll just pop up into a PowerPoint. Oh, can I share my screen?
Yeah, that's just set that for you. So that should work now.
Yeah, so just these help to illustrate the point a little bit. So so showmen are a cultural minority. We're not an ethnic minority, and we have been around since the 1600s, and we are the community that you would recognise as travelling with fun fairs. We're the community that sort of own and operate the fun fairs throughout the UK and all over the world. And we have been sort of, we think probably around the 1600s is how long the current community in the UK has been sort of a one-formed community. I'm multiple generations of showmen on both sides. You can see in this print here from 1830s, Ords in the background, they were a circus family, and that was my that's my heritage, that's my family on my dad's side. So anyone who's a showman today in the UK has descended from a long line of showmen. So we have our own culture and our own sort of ways of being, and we have our own sort of language that we use. And the way that we started off, because obviously you see the big flashy fairground rides and the waltzers and all of that now, prior to there being sort of mechanical rides that were sort of electrically powered, we were a community of performers and artists, and we then sort of progressed into the modern fair as you know it now. And we have our own sort of language that we speak, or it's a slang more than a language, and it's called Polari, and it's a mix of Cant, Romanes, Yiddish, there's 5 or 6 Italian, and the reason that it's such a mix and has sort of developed in the way that we've developed as a community is that we started off on markets, medieval markets, and Punch and Judy, for instance, was some of our earlier sort of communities, occupations on the markets. And then over time, we branched off from marketplaces and became sort of our own collective or our own sort of fair. But our origins and our history very much lies within that market. And if you think of the reason why there's all those different languages is because people who would have been involved in markets, different other traveller groups, Roma groups, would have all been in the one place. And so our heritage and the people who we all descend from are actually a mix of those different groups. So although we're a cultural minority, we do have our roots within other travelling groups. And actually we would have, up until around the 60s, travelled in different locations with other travellers. And quite often you will meet a show person a bit like my family, where my granny was Romany, she was a Boswell. So we have a sort of intermarriage and there's a connection there. But I think as time has gone on, we've tried very much to be seen, or there has been a massive effort and a push for this to be seen as just a business group. So not a minority of people, but an active business where, and a community that forms around it. And around, I think it was 1888, that was when that sort of mindset started with the formulation of the Showman's Guild, which is a trade union that protects the rights and interests of our community. And it's difficult because there was almost a whitewashing of our identity at that point. We were to stop saying we were travellers. That's a word, we refer to ourselves as travellers sort of privately within our community, but then we were to stop saying that and we were only to be showmen. And with that came a lot of sort of complications. And I think to set the scene of how things are now, sorry, I should, that's just the different images from how the community's progressed. But yeah, to set the scene, I suppose, of how things are now, there is conflict within our community with regards to whether or not we should be in GTRSB and how we should work within education, because the Showman's Guild of Great Britain have education liaison officers, and they work with schools and local councils to help and support children. They set up schools on fun fairs, and they have private tutors that attend the fairs. And they would like to very much be separate from GTRSB. I think that a lot of the issues that young people go through in schools from our community, they attribute to that connection or being seen to be gypsies or travellers as opposed to being showmen. I think it's too simplistic. I think that it's much better idea to sort of be in it together and work together and support each other. But I think there's this feeling that we should be a separate group. So it's very difficult to say that the GTRSB, it's difficult to say where showmen should fit in all of it, because actually our education experiences are very different. So in the summer months, we travel on fun fairs, March to October. And while school is still on, children go back and forward to school because we have winter yards, and most showmen will have two homes. They'll have their winter home on a yard or a site, and which is like a chalet, which is what I'm in now, or they'll have their caravan that, as you can see, sits at the back of the fairground. So it used to be that when you were on fairs, you would either have a school set up for the children that they could attend on the fair, you'd have tutors, or you would attend a local school for the week or 2 weeks that you were there. As time's gone on, because we have two homes, quite often one of the parents will stay at the fair and the other one will come and do school from home. So children are getting to spend time in their actual school, or their winter school. Another thing with showman children as well is that we tend to not have, so showmen in general tend not to have the same experiences of sort of adversity as other travelling groups. And I think it's because of the fairground, the business that we're in, we're sort of able to provide, sort of economically speaking, a level of, you're born into a business, you're born into a means of sort of being able to keep yourself and keep your family, and it's generational, so that you're passed on a lot of skills and cultural things that help you in education. And I think that sorry, I'm all over the place with this because it's hard, because I don't know what you guys already know, and I don't know that there has been enough work done in this area for us to sort of really paint the landscape and have suggestions. Like, I was trying to think, well, what would help? And I think there are people in my position who are showmen, who are working in education, who tend to then make the decision that we need the same things as the other GTRSB, and we really don't. We need support and help, but we don't have the same sort of experience in education. We are a wee bit more fortunate in some ways. What we're not fortunate with is but I'm actually going to stop this now. What we do struggle with is the same thing as what we'd heard today: discrimination and not being supported by schools or in schools. Like, when I was in school, I wasn't able to join any clubs. You had to say that you would be there every week or you couldn't join. Why is this stop share? Sorry. We weren't allowed to take time off of school. Like, that was a massive battle to finally be recorded on the census, because we were never recorded as anything. It's only in 2021 that we were recently acknowledged as a group at all. But we have had the resources to have like tutoring and schools. I think one of the things, we need a wee bit more recognition and a wee bit more support to integrate. And I think that we need our own skills to be valued. So when you're a young person, you all that's from our community, you work on the fair, you're almost, it's a family unit working together to run a fun fair, and everyone's at sort of managerial level. So our young people are very skilled. They learn how to be joiners and mechanics and tradesmen. And quite often we do tend to go to university, especially in Scotland. I noticed when I was doing my own research that it's actually different throughout the country. So I would say in sort of the further south you go, showmen tend to be more conservative and traditional, and the further up north you go, people tend to sort of branch out. But a lot of the young people that I grew up with, we all went to university really, and we would usually come back into the community and bring and merge those skills. It's just that I would say that isn't really, we're not supported in that, in a sense, to try and bring that in. So yeah, no, I have completely went all over the place with this, I won't lie, because I don't know where to start, and I think it's very difficult to paint the picture. So I'm going to go refer back to my notes on the other side of the screen. And I'll end it with I don't even know where I am with this now. I'm sorry, I'm usually much better at this. I would say if we're going to just end it on something, how do churches connect with showmen and help to sort of promote showmen children's education? I would say support the business and you're supporting young showmen. I think if a fair comes to your local town, make the effort to sort of go down, maybe introduce yourself, welcome them to the church, to any services going on, advocate for them in the town if anyone has an issue or a problem with them being there. Maybe be mindful or aware of the community and sort of what goes into having the fair there. We've got to pay insurances, licenses, it's all got to be arranged with local council. And I think having the church's support and saying, well, no, we're a good thing for the town. And I think that even liaising between if the church has a relationship with local schools or maybe helping to support, sort of connect children to the school. And then I would say as well, space. So I didn't really go into who I am and what I do otherwise. So I run a charity called Epic Assist, and I do a lot of youth projects and sort of help to build them within my own community. And I would say that providing spaces is always a big thing for people to be able to attend and communities to put in their own workshops. So if the church has the capacity to offer that. Yeah, I would rather take questions because I went off script. So,
any questions there for Candace?
Not a question, but just to say, Candace, I mean, you were brilliant. All over the place is the best way to be. We don't want to be having stats and structure. I think I learned so much more. And yeah, I thought I knew quite a bit, but I didn't know as much as that. So it's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that when you're probably having conversations with Colleen or Sheldon or different people, we're all feeling the same pressure because we're very new to the game. We're not as developed as a community in this type of space. We have sort of allowed the Showman's Guild to really take lead until I would say the last 5 years, where we've decided that, well, no, we need to make our space in education. We need to be involved. Things need to be community led, and we need to actually have well-being. And I work quite a bit with the Showman's Mental Health Awareness Charity, and we focus on that type of education. And so we're really learning from a lot that sort of the other GTRSB groups have done. So it's new territory, and we are experiencing challenges from even within the community who, as you say, you don't know whether to work together as the larger collective or should showmen be a completely separate thing, because we are very different. But I think that if you speak to any showman, we see ourselves as travellers, and we do work with other travelling communities, and we do all have that in our sort of history and within our families. And I think that there's a whitewashing and there's a challenge that we're constantly having to face. Sorry. So I can see someone has a question.
Yeah, I've got my hand up. It was going back slightly to, you were talking about the Showman's Guild and going back to our earlier conversations in this webinar. Is that led by men, women, young people, old people?
It's male-led, and it's very much a trade union that does try to have more of us. It's a trade union that will do its best and have education liaison officers to support in education, but they have like an all-parliamentary group, and they have other groups that they attend, and not once in 30 years have they spoken about education and or chosen it to be a topic. They do support with getting yards, but again, because it's a male-led group, they're very much into getting yards so the way we have our yards is that you live on the same piece of land as yours. It's why it's not a site technically. So you would go on and it would look like a site at one side, and then at the back of that you would have all the fairground equipment, and it's a workman's yard. People are actually working and maintaining the rides. So when they try and get yards, sometimes or most of the times they'll find industrial estates, and they'll make it more geared to the business side. but there isn't that sort of community focus from the guild. I don't feel enough. And yeah, I think that so the first woman to be on a chair, sit on the committee was in the Scottish section, and she's still there, and she had such a battle. Like even my own dad, who is very, very supportive of me and quite a feminist, he initially didn't want to have Christine on the guild, and now she's one of the better sort of members, and she's voted on every year. But yeah, it's a very male-led industry. At home, it's not, because I think that's where within our homes you get that influence from, I would say, more the Romany heritage that we have. Women do very much run the home, and even within the home, they'll be very influential about what should go on outside with the business. And my mom and my family and the women in my family are very well known for being too outspoken. But they'll have like meetings at the front of the fair. The men will go after being coached off their wives inside the trailer. But my mom would always like come out and say, well, I don't think this is right, or that's not wrong, and probably why I am the way I am. But sorry, I'm rambling, but it is very much, yeah, male led. I think we need a lot of time to develop things more and understand more. I think we've jumped in head feet and tried to almost mimic some of the other work that's been done, with the assumption that we have similar or the same challenges, but I think we have our own sets of challenges, and it's very hard for me to sort of give an individual perspective, and I think that's only really what we're hearing. I think probably we need somebody to do a bit of research to see exactly what the specific challenges are. I think distance learning is always a challenge, but I think that, yeah, we do have more, I don't know, resources than other groups, I think. I always feel guilty that we might be taking up space. I don't know. I'm just speaking out loud now. I'm just going to stop.
Don't be guilty, Candice. You're not taking up no space that it's not yours anyway.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Candice?
Just to echo everybody else in saying how much we appreciate you being here and sharing and participating in the way you have. And our learning has been increased a lot by you being here.
And you've asked a lot of good questions to all the other speakers today, and I think I've also brought out a lot from them as well, for us as a group. So yes, thank you for your contributions, and it would be good to yes, keep a conversation going with you and keep a relationship with you. That would be good.
Definitely. I think it just needs to take, I think there've been too many, we've rushed into things too much. I think there needs to be more of a balance and more of a staged sort of entry into this type of community, I think, with regards to our own sort of education needs, and we need to understand them better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comments or questions about anything that we've spoken about today?
Paul, when is it likely to be available on the website?
Hopefully this should be up on YouTube by the end of the week. And then I'm not quite so sure about on the actual website itself, but on YouTube it should be, we can have this up by the end of the week.
That would be great, Paul. The work in Alcombe Primary School continues, and in particular that we're trying to set up a way of helping the primary children progress to the secondary schools in the area, and head of STEAM up building on that. So it'll be really good for them to hear all the content from today's webinar on that front.
Can I ask, sorry, just again, because I'm asking too many questions, but is there a opportunity or another space where we have the church is able to then suggest what they might be able to do? Is there a two-way, as a space for a two-way conversation there where we could hear sort of what resources they think they could give? Is that?
I think definitely. One of the issues can be is that different churches can give different things. So it's hard to speak for everybody. And sometimes I think churches have to be helped to think through what they could give. So especially within the line, within education, you know, a church might say, well, we can't really educate. But then if they can start helping the church to think through, okay, well, actually we do have a hall where people could come and do some homework. We do have free, you know, we have internet, we have Wi-Fi that people could come and join in on, or okay, yeah, we can go into we can approach schools, we can promote the pledge, or we can promote Gypsy, Roma, Traveller, Showman, Boater cultures. We can be a voice, we can. So yes, I think it's very much a conversation that can be had. I don't know if Ivy or Nikki have something else to add.
I suppose just probably Nikki's better to answer, but yeah, I think just lending a space, you know, offering internet, and it might be the case where it won't fit for all communities, but it might be like a homework club or a mum's group. I think there's plenty happening in churches. I think there needs to be more outreach to wider communities to explain what's happening and how they can be welcomed. So I think again, it's just space, time, and just having that right person to lead on that, that's got more of an understanding and is willing to learn more. And I think we can all learn from each other. But I think, yeah, definitely, Candace, I think more spaces for all of us, and an awareness, which hopefully we're trying to do that, like through these webinars, to raise more awareness with different people. So hopefully a change will happen soon.
And I think there will be spaces where churches will have professionals in them who might then be willing to say, oh yes, I could actually offer an apprenticeship, or I could actually help teach, let's say for Paisley. Well, if Paisley wanted to do a certain thing, there might be a church who would say, well, I've got a professional who could actually give some support and education on whatever. So whether it's somebody who has a business that is doing makeup, or a business doing with travel, or a business construction, or I don't you know, or accounting, who could actually say, well, actually, no, I can come and give you some lessons on this. I think sometimes it's just having to think differently.
And I suppose the more we can share using the Gypsy Roma Traveller Friendly Churches website, excuse me, that's my phone, sorry. The more we can encourage imagination, creativity, and ideas. So it's kind of getting people to look on the website and getting people to share what they're doing on the website. It kind of sparks and hopefully sets off a train of ideas and things up and down the country, because people begin to think, oh, well, they did that, I could do that. And it's not so frightening or alien or strange.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Candice. Also, thanks to our other speakers. Unfortunately, Chelsea McDonough was meant to be with us today. Unfortunately, she had the flu, so was not able to join. But I'm hoping that we can bring her in at another point. So thank you, everybody, for making the time. We've gone over a little bit later than planned, but there's been a lot of good things shared from Lily and Terry, hearing these different young people's voices, Paisley, as well as people in activist roles. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for organising it all for us.
And this will be online hopefully by the end of this week, and we'll put the link out on Twitter. So thank you very much.
Thank you then. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye.